UFC 294's main event just got announced. Islam Makhachev is going to be taking on Charles Olivera in Abu Dhabi in October at UFC 294. Even though Charles Olivera had stated something about not really being ready just yet. He wanted to wait till November or December, but now all of a sudden he's ready to take the fight. I'm a little bit confused, to be honest, because I don't know what that means for a guy like Charles Olivera. Like, was he able to sort out his schedule and was able to take the fight? Did he just decide, you know what, this might be my only chance to get a title shot, so I need to do this now? I don't know what he was thinking, but all we know is we're going to get this rematch, get this title shot against Islam Makhachev. And we saw how Islam performed against Alexander Volkanovski, where I think both guys performed relatively well, but I think that they both had opportunities where they could have done better in certain spots. And both fighters will acknowledge that to you. So the question becomes, how is Islam going to improve after that last fight? I honestly believe that Islam will come out better for that performance because Alexander Volkanovski gave him problems. Charles Oliveira's ground game is like no other, and you have to be extremely careful. And the way that Islam was taking down Charles in the first fight is the way he's going to have to do that again in the rematch. You cannot shoot single legs and double legs the way Kevin Lee was, because then you get caught in that guillotine choke. You do not want to get caught in any chokehold, let alone a guillotine, by Charles Oliveira. Charles Olivera was able to tap out Kevin Lee from half guard. And for those of you who don't know, that's an extremely difficult thing to do. You gotta have a tight squeeze for that. Getting in the full guard is the best possible position because there is no avenue to escape at that point. And you're able to squeeze onto the hold and get a better grip of the hold when they're in the full guard. So Islam's gotta mind his P's and Q's. Even though I believe that Islam will be able to control Olivera on the ground, I don't believe he's going to get caught in anything stupid, just like he did in the first fight. I could see a lot of things going much more similarly. However, the issues will arise when Charles Olivera comes out with a more patient striking game. He comes out, he throws his punches and kicks from a distance in a calculated manner. In the first fight, Charles was kind of going for all these jumping kicks and stuff like that ended up getting him caught. You know, his lack of defense was much more apparent than ever in that fight. Because against guys like Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, these guys are known for their striking. So getting caught by them isn't as much of a surprise as it is to get caught by a guy like Islam. Especially when you're not as worried about the takedowns, knowing that you have this amazing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu off the bottom. But the problem is with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys is that sometimes they'll stay on their back for too long, looking for the submission, even when it's not working. And Charles had to learn this lesson in the Beneil Dariush fight. When Charles fought Beneil Dariush, he was on his back. He kind of tried to go for a trip and ended up in his guard. And he tried to go for some submissions, go for a leg lock and, just try to get that first round submission. And he wasn't able to do it. But he stayed on his back for a little while. But eventually, he decided to get back up to the feet. And he did. And I believe that Charles Olivera learned a lesson in that fight that he's going to have to use against Islam Makhachev in order to have any sort of success. And when it comes to the striking, like I said, strikes from a distance, being very patient and calculated, as well as, using a bit more head movement. As we know, Charles Olivera isn't the greatest when it comes to his head movement. He's going to have to, slip those straight lefts from Islam Makhachev. He's going to have to watch out for that big right hook, just like in the first fight. Watch out for those counters. And I think Olivera this time is going to be much more hip to it. I think he's going to be prepared for that. He's going to expect that. He underestimated the striking of Islam, just like Alexander Volkanovski did. And Islam was able to rock both those guys, because Islam, even though he's not the best offensive striker in the world, he's very explosive, and he has a lot of power, and he's really good with his striking defense, just like Khabib. And I believe that, Islam could potentially catch Charles with some counters if he doesn't mind his P's and Q's while entering range. Charles needs to go for those leg kicks. He needs to go to the body. He needs to be very calculated with his punches to the head. Set it up with jabs. Set it up with front kicks. But be very calculated about it. Because when Charles wants to defend takedowns, when he feels like, defending a takedown, he will absolutely do it. Like, there is no hesitation in my mind. He can defend a takedown if he wants to. And as for Islam, like I said, he's got to be careful about how he shoots there. Because if he's not careful upon the entry, he is going to get submitted. Now, if you're going to ask for my overall prediction on this fight, I'm going to have to go with Islam Makhachev again. It is not that I don't think Charles Olivera can win. Charles Oliveira can absolutely win this fight. I just start to get a little bit nervous when I see Charles has taken a lot of damage. He doesn't have the greatest striking defense. He doesn't really move his head very much. That's very nerve-wracking for me, coming to a fight against Islam, because Islam's very powerful, like I mentioned. So I honestly think that no matter where the fight goes, Charles is always going to have some level of difficulty, as will Islam, but Charles is always going to be in a more, I don't want to say state of danger, but that's the only phrase I can kind of use to describe that, just because of the fact that Charles doesn't have the greatest chin in the world. He's got a lot of heart, he does, but he's just defensively, submission defense, ground and pound defense, striking defense, it just isn't there. And that's where it can be extremely concerning for a guy like Charles Oliveira. Now, also on this card, we have Khamzat Chimaev taking on Paulo Costa. Guys, I'm going to be honest, this is a very good fight. I would rather see this fight than the Ikram Aliskerov fight. And it's not that Ikram isn't a great fighter. He absolutely is a great fighter. However, Khamzat Chimaev's been in the UFC longer. He's had more fights. Paulo Costa and Khamzat Chimaev, there's genuine beef there. And that's why I would really like to see this fight take place. As well as, we want to see Khamzat tested in the middleweight division. Right? We saw him get tested in the welterweight division against Gilbert Burns. And Gilbert showed some things in there that, like, hey, Khamzat Chimaev is not this superhuman that everybody makes him out to be. With that being said, I do believe early it's going to be extremely competitive, but both guys are going to gas out. They're both going to go very hard in that first round. And I see Khamzat Chimaev winning, but I think this is going to be a very good fight. Paulo Costa is not out of the realm of possibility to win this fight. I believe that the jabs from Khamzat Chimaev are going to be very good. The takedowns obviously are going to be there, but Paulo Costa's strength is something that Khamzat has to come up against. So for all we know, that strength and takedown defense ability of Paulo Costa, as well as a BJJ black belt, whatever that means these days, I believe could be enough to potentially stop Khamzat, especially in the early going. But Paulo Costa, he may look like it, but he's not this one-punch knockout artist like people think he is, especially cutting down to 185 pounds. But Khamzat definitely will feel the blows of Paulo Costa. He'll definitely feel the weight and the strength difference between the two. But if there's anybody who's coming up to 185 that can manhandle Paulo Costa in the wrestling, it would be a guy like Khamzat Chimaev. So let me know what you guys think about this card coming up. I'm very excited for this. So let me know what you guys think of this down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!